Friday with Friends fans, thank you so much. I will thank you in advance for joining us as many times as you have, and today you're going to get a special treat. So I don't know, I don't talk about my culinary background very often, but I used to be a chef back in the day, and I don't know, the way I see it, you sort of always are. And there's these ties, there's this sort of responsibility. You gotta, put shine on other people. You gotta remain true to the people who help you get there, whether you know them or not. It's a grand community. It's full of people who love sweets, full of people who love savory. And so this is a really exciting day for me because we got a chef here and I love it. And so we're finally on the spotlight, one of our own, if you will. So Charles Niedermeyer, thank you for showing up today. Thank you for giving your time. And welcome to Friday with Friends. Thank you for showing up.
Thank you, Derek. It's a pleasure to be here. It is chefs. It's funny how people just love chefs. When you tell people you're a pastry chef, like, oh my gosh,
wow.
Oh my
God, I know.
And the number one question you get is like, what's your favorite recipe?
Yes. What's your specialty? Or like, are you cooking all the time and all this other stuff? It is kind of funny and interesting, like what people think, or they'll say, oh, you're just so lucky, you get to just go and just play with food all the time.
We are so lucky. It's a fun industry to be in. There's tremendous demand. We're always going to be employed, and it's evolving constantly, which keeps it interesting and exciting. It's not moving papers from one side of the desk to the other every day and punching out. It's really dynamic, and so it's great to be here, and it's great to be part of this conversation.
Thanks, man. You're pretty. It's awesome. But first, let's tell us about yourself. And you have this, let's call it exciting background in both pastry, baking, and confections. Let's talk about what brought you to all that. What's your story? How did you have? Usually, there's some grandmother or somebody involved in these days.
Yeah, I know, right? All the great chefs have this story of a great grandmother. For me, I've always been in the kitchen. I loved getting in the kitchen at an early age. My father and my mother are both ordained ministers. So I grew up in the church, and we would be the first ones to the church to open the door and the last ones to leave and lock it. And it was like my playground. And one of the things that actually really got me interested in baking was when I was 12 years old. We had this big cookie sale for the holidays, and the woman that was in charge of it was a professional chef, and she had worked 10 years in Hawaii and all over the country, so she was the real McCoy. And so when we made these cookies, we made a lot of beautiful cookies, and I was like, wow, man, I didn't know cookies could be like this, with little bits of cherry or a little glaze, and they look beautiful. And I still remember that
dunk, those cookies.
Yeah, it just wasn't a bunch of little Chips Ahoy's. It was, it was some with almond paste and some with, candied fruit. And I still remember that. And it really kind of excited me about, what baking and what food could be. And my dad tells a story that all through middle school that I said I always wanted to be a chef. And I kind of remember that, but not exactly. It's kind of funny, but he says, oh yeah, he always says he was going to be a chef. He wanted to be a chef. And so, I cooked and baked at home all through middle school and high school. I remember making my first cake for my mom. I went out to the grocery store. This is no joke, and bought a bunch of Little Debbie Swiss rolls and a little pail of Duncan Hines icing. And I stacked it up into a rectangle and iced it. And then I took the little tubes of gel and wrote Happy Mother's Day, or maybe it was Happy Birthday. Gosh, I can't remember now. But that was my first cake. Wow. The thing was ridiculous. You couldn't eat it. But, I've just always been interested. And by the time I was in high school, I remember we had Thanksgiving at the house with the family. And I was like, are we done? Can I get out of here? Because I had Thanksgiving at my buddy's house. So I went over there and I made Thanksgiving dinner for all my friends. And everybody showed up and they're like, oh my gosh, this is better than what I had at home. So it's been a big part of, my life. And when I had a chance to go to school, I went to school for baking and pastry. But again, I showed up at Penn College, And I said, I want to be a chef. And they're like, oh, we have a culinary arts program and a baking and pastry arts program. And I was like, I can go to school for baking? And they're like, yeah. And I was like, sign me up, I'm in. So I was like, so I didn't do my homework. I was, kind of unprepared, but I was just so all in. I tell this stuff to my students and they just can't believe it. That's where I came from. That's how I started, So I can appreciate, everybody's pathway. And so I went to culinary school, went to baking and pastry, got my associate's degree, got my bachelor's in business, and I was just on fire for the industry ever since then. So I've always been cooking and baking professionally. I have a lot of experience in both fields. I worked for 9 years as working my way up from a cook, pastry cook, assistant pastry chef. The last position I held was chef de cuisine. So I actually ran a fine dining restaurant for 3.5 years. And then at that time, I had an opportunity to go teach at Penn College. So they reached out to me and said, we could use some help over here. We'd really love to have you on board. So I went and did 1 semester adjunct and then went full time. And that was 16 years ago. So I'm finishing my first year at Penn College, and I teach baking and pastry. That's for sure my passion. I haven't cooked professionally full time for a long time, but I'm very, very comfortable anywhere in the kitchen, and so that's kind of what led you and I to cross paths, is the educational field and all the opportunities for me to travel and so on. So I guess I got about 26, 27 years experience now.
Yeah, you look young, dude. Jeez.
Trying,
Yeah, seasoning right there. That's what that is, right?
Just brush out the gray a little bit.
Yeah, man, it's better than our dads, like the Grecian formula kind of stuff. We don't do that. So I always heard, I kind of got off the elevator, and I always heard that going into pastry or the baking side prepares you better for the savory side. So when you went to the savory side, did you find that was the case?
It was an easy transition for me. It really was. I was so disciplined with baking and, measurements and being precise with methods. When I started to cook, I realized that I had a lot more leeway. And so I felt like cooking was very fast. I could crank out a lot of production because I was so disciplined and organized that I felt like I had more room to play. And I got really good at cooking. I'm still a pretty darn good cook these days. I open up the fridge door and see what I have, and then I write the menu. That's how I cook for my family at home.
That's how you gotta do it.
Yeah, I only reach for a recipe when somebody requests something, and then I go to get the food at the grocery store. But yeah, it really prepared me, and I was always eager to learn. So when I was working at the Ritz-Carlton Hotel, for example, I was happy to take on savory projects to help the banquet chef or the dining room chef, whoever it was. So I was always involved in the savory side.
Do you still cook like leisurely at home? Do you have time to cook leisurely at home?
Oh yeah, all the time. I just got done cooking.
Okay.
So in fact, I hardly ever bake or make candy at home because that's what I do all the time at school. So I love cooking at home, and it's one of my favorite things to do. And my kids love to cook, and so we get everybody in the kitchen on a regular basis. Once or twice a week.
Underestimate just how much of a precious gift that is that you give to your children. They'll appreciate it. They're walking out the door at 20. Their friends will definitely appreciate it. My son went to college. I didn't think he knew anything. And then he's calling me up. He's like, "Yeah, how do you do this? And how do you do this?" And I go down there and I visit him, and all his friends are telling me like he's throwing down and he's like grilling and like.
Yeah.
I'm like, you've really been paying attention around here, huh? Like,
yeah. That's right. Yeah, my oldest is excellent. Sometimes she'll just make dinner for the whole family, and she's 19, and she'll say, "Hey, I want to do pork stir fry," and I'll say, "All right, what do you put it on the list, and I'll get whatever you want," and she'll make the whole meal. So, and her and I, we started 4 years old making cream puffs and truffles, and so she's been in the kitchen with me forever.
Wow. You want that for them, or
what's that?
You want them to follow suit? You want them to be in the business?
No, I want to, you know how tough this business is. You get into this business because you love it. And I thought there was a chance that she might be interested, but she'll always be cooking and baking, as a passion, as a hobby, as an enthusiast. But she, I don't put any kind of pressure on that because it's such a tough business. You've got to love it, man.
You gotta love it. Interest is not love, but that is the truth. Like you have to really, really want to be immersed in it. So, I can attest to your prowess in the kitchen. Like I was sick, but you were up there performing for us, and apparently everybody said you were great. Of course, I had no doubt. And then you sent me some product, and I'm like, man, I missed this. Like this, it was fantastic, So I'll tell you the story. I sent Charles some hemp oil, a couple different types. One was more citrus flavored, and one was kind of more herby. And he sends me back this box of chocolates and this pâte de fruits. And I think it was was it mango or was it guava?
I think gosh, we made so many.
Unbelievable. Yes, I tell you,
thank you.
I was always a savory guy. Like this was not. I did not have the patience, to go and take the steps and prep and make sure I got all my stuff measured out and then go. It's like no, I just want to throw stuff in. And so I have a high respect, for what you do and the methodology.
Thank you, Derek. Thank you.
No, I'm serious. And not everybody can do this. And I think that the day that you decide to go in pastry and baking, that was a smart move. That was a smart move. If nothing else, 9 times out of 10, you get to work by yourself.
Yeah. No, it was a fun collaboration. Hemp oil and extracts are really fascinating and interesting to me, but more importantly, the consumer. There's such a demand for these products.
Yes.
So when we connected and I had a chance to taste and play around with some of the stuff from Cherry Blossom, it was an absolute treat because it's such a quality product. It's consistent. And I'm not here on the paid infomercial. I'm sharing my personal experience working with it. And what's fun is for me, teaching at Penn College, I have the time, the space, and the support to really dig into developing and tinkering and looking at these products. And so it was a good project. Pâte de fruits is a great example of how you can use some of these different hemp extracts and hemp oils, looking at full spectrum, looking at something that's more isolated, but that's just the tip of the iceberg. You and I have had this conversation before. Some people, they really get hung up on the idea of like masking or hiding the flavor of hemp oil. But I kind of take a different approach. I always make it part of what I'm developing.
Yeah.
I like the earthiness. I like the herbaceousness of it. And they all taste a little bit different, And so what I like to do first is taste the oils and kind of build from there and make it part of the flavor profile. So like when you look at like those pâte de fruits I was making with the mango, what did the hemp oil work with? Well, it worked with spices. It worked with citrus. It works with, these certain flavor elements. And so while sometimes it does get hidden a bit and you don't taste it as much, usually it's there. So I try to make it part of the flavor profile and then people just enjoy it. It's there,
I like how you sort of steer it into it. I think because from the consumer standpoint, most of the time it's like, I don't want to know that it's there. It's almost like the thought behind those cocktails, sweet, they're like syrupy and like, you want to feel it, but you don't want to taste it. And I think that's what most people want when it comes to cannabinoid edibles.
And I can appreciate that completely. There are definitely easy ways to do that. So you hit strong flavors with other strong flavors. So I've done a lot with pâte de fruits, chocolate, ganache, marshmallow. Gosh, I was even playing around with maple and maple creams and maple candies.
Wow.
And, when you have stronger flavors, then it becomes even more subtle and it becomes a secondary flavor, that herbaceousness, that pininess, or that earthiness, whatever those exact flavor profiles are. So, you kind of have to tailor that to your customer and your client, and what they're looking for. But I think the key is like an educated consumer, because more and more now, as customers are realizing the tremendous health benefits that come from these products, they're like less kind of turned off by the flavor, because they're like, they understand that it's like eating darker chocolates. You know what I mean? Like we,
For example.
the percent that the average American likes keep going up and up and up. And part of it is it's the flavonoids and the all the literature and the promotion behind that darker chocolates are healthier for you. And I think people like, they try a little bit something a little bit darker because they know it's a little bit better for them than eating something loaded with sugar and fat. And I think cannabinoids and cannabinoids, however you say it, forgive me.
Either or. I go back and forth. Either or, man. However you want to do it. You can change it every time.
These hemp-based products are kind of in the same realm. They're new, so people are trying them. They're like, whoa, what's that? But now it's just going to become more and more part of our palate and what we're used to. And I enjoy them. Like I said, I like to taste them as part of the confection or the pastry or the savory element, whatever it is.
And you believe that this has a place in the culinary world?
Oh yeah, totally. I have personally, I actually, I take CBD oil daily for my own well-being and health, and I've seen it in my fiance, my mother, a good friend of mine who I work with at a bakery. I continue to advocate for it being an all-natural, safe, cheap, and effective medicine, and I think it's just part of a good routine and regime. And I say cheap, I know it can be an expensive ingredient as a pastry chef, but when you look at what it costs, in the medical world to take care of yourself, it's cheap.
It's cheap. Yes.
It's cheap.
It's cheap.
Yeah, for good medicine.
Cheaper because you're not dealing with side effects and countering those things,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm a big proponent, a big fan, and it's making its way into all types of markets. So, right now I think I tend to see it a little bit more in some of the higher end markets, but I think it's kind of creeping its way down into some more of the mid-range price points, lower price points. I think it's going to get there. And on the savory side as well, we've played around with hemp oil in dressings, hemp oil as a marinade, hemp oil, in all kinds of emulsions and applications. When you start doing that, you're really less concerned with maybe maintaining the health benefits, and you're more interested in the eating qualities. So it just depends who your customer and client is.
So you this story you told about your coming, all this happens in Pennsylvania. Like this is all a Pennsylvania story. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. I teach at Pennsylvania College of Technology in Williamsport. Mm-hmm. And I actually live in State College, Pennsylvania, right next to Penn State University. So I drive up there. It's a bit of a hike, but it's part of my routine. What's that?
Beautiful country, though.
Oh yeah, it is. Yeah, I really enjoy being outdoors and having such bounty, here in the Northeast. We're really fortunate to have so many great ingredients and such a great seasonality to that. It's wonderful.
The Appalachians help. Yeah, you guys are up there. You got all kinds of things going on up there in Pennsylvania. You get any outdoorsy stuff, like you like hunting and fishing. I know that's big up there.
Yeah, I you know what, I'm a pretty active guy. I'm not a hunter, but I do like to go fishing with my boys, and we're outside all the time. We like to go hiking. We like to go camping. So it's fun. When it snows, we like to go sled riding, so I like to be outside, and fresh air is just, one of the things that I look forward to every day. So absolutely.
So the school is in Williamsport, correct?
Yes.
And for people who don't know, Williamsport is also the home of the Little League World Series. So
That's
do
right.
you and the boys get up there and catch some games like in the summertime? Or?
Well, yeah, the Little League World Series is definitely what Williamsport is most known for, and it's only about 20 days long, and it's when
Wow.
all of the teams from around the world converge for the tournament. And I've been to many games, absolutely. And what's interesting now is Penn College is responsible for the food service for the complex. So we feed all the players, all the
Wow.
coaches, all the umpires, all the uncles.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, 3 meals a day. And what's really great is the students get hired to do that work by Penn College, by Lejeune Chef, the
Wow.
restaurant on campus. So we're very intimately involved in Little League and what happens. And we have a parade in Williamsport, and it all kicks off at Penn College and so on. So it's a really unique and special time for the community and for us, for Penn College.
It's like everybody's involved, everybody's winning, the students win, I mean, the kids win, the staff wins, the coaches win. Yeah, that's awesome. That is really, really good. It's a good story.
Yeah, exactly. That's what it has to be, right? It has to be good for the community, good for the students, and good for the school.
Yes. And speaking of staying with Pennsylvania, people don't really know this, but and people outside of this region, I would say, but Pennsylvania is, I don't know, quietly, maybe not that quietly, it's like a hub for confectionery arts, like these. And I want almost like, as Americans concerned, like ancient arts, like things that you don't really see anymore. You could go to Pennsylvania at a local mom and pop shop and look at the two people whose hands put this together, and this array of it's like chocolates and all kinds of stuff. So, can you speak on that a little bit, and like how this culture like stays alive, and like what is it? I don't know. Like it's like some, I don't know. Like, I'll let you take it.
It's a combination of things, but you're 100% correct. There's a concentration of confectionery happening in PA that I think's above most other states and regions across the country. And it really goes back to our history. I mean, if you look at Philadelphia, for example, the food scene and the culinary history in Philadelphia is just so rich. And you look at these old menus, and it's like they've got pineapple and they've got mango on it, and you're thinking, and these are several hundred years ago, and you think, how did they have this? Well, Philadelphia was a major trade route, and still is. But in the colonial days, it was one of the trade routes for importing and bringing in products from around the world. And so, of course, in addition to all sorts of things, cacao was heavily imported in through Philadelphia. And so lots of confectionery companies developed close to the city of Philadelphia, most notably Milton Hershey, of course, and his story developing. He always tells about how he put his plant next to his second most important ingredient, which was milk, right? So he had cacao coming in through the ports, and then he had these tremendous access to farms and dairy and fresh products. And so a whole confectionery industry really boomed in the Northeast, but in particular in the Pennsylvania and New Jersey regions. And it's one of the reasons the Retail Confectioners Association of Philadelphia was formed over 100 years ago. That high concentration of candy makers, and you hear that and you think it's just like a local thing. It's a national organization. They have members all over the country, but it was formed in Philadelphia to serve the needs of the regional confectioner there, and it still remains. Businesses, of course, continue to evolve and change, and some of those mom and pop shops have closed up, but there's still a tremendous amount of production and small scale, right? Mom and pop, all the way up to manufacturers in this area. So.
Kind of goes north, like into like New York, upper New York, into the New England areas. Also, like you see a lot of people in this retail confectioners group, and they come from a lot from the Northeast on over to probably like the Chicago, Wisconsin region.
Yeah. No, it's really fun. and exciting to be in this area because there's so many companies and professionals I get to network with, and I don't have to drive too far.
Right.
Yeah.
So of the three disciplines, we say pastry, baking, which could include like bread and things like that, and confectionery, candies. Like what's your favorite? What do you more like hits closer to your heart?
Wow. Well, I have 3 children, so it's like asking my favorite, right?
Tough question. Good.
Well, that's a tough one. I love variety. I love doing different things. I really do love confectionery. It's one of my favorite disciplines because I always tell my students candy making is like the neurology of all baking and pastry.
Yeah.
I think it's some of the most demanding work that we do. Not to take away from, it's all chemistry and it's all art and it all comes together beautifully, So
Yeah.
I love making bread. I love the artisan bread industry. I've done a ton of work teaching, training, trying out for the US baking team. So I'm equally crazy about bread and fermentation, and that's a whole world of
Yes.
mystique. Oh, I need another lifetime to master that one. But then again, I work with my students and we make, cookies and pastries and cakes and it's fun. It's great. It's great to make mousses and build them into domes and glaze them and do chocolate straws. And so it all comes together, at the school. So I'm really lucky I get to dabble and teach in all of them. But definitely confectionery is one of those things that I just keep finding myself in more and more these days. So
It touches a lot of buttons, you know what I mean? Like it's intricate, or it can be, it's like you said, it's scientific, it's very artistic, and all the disciplines are. It's just kind of like some just lean a little heavier in one direction than another,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, when I'm in class, you'll hardly ever hear me say recipe. I always talk about formula and we talk about percents and we really focus on process and tweaking that to achieve the desired result. And it's fun. Baking and pastry just touches on all that, and it's craftsmanship. It's doing something every day to do it well and to pass that on, and we're part of the community. We're feeding people. And that's a big part of it. And I just love that we get to participate in such special events, like from baby showers to funerals and everything in between. We're there as culinary professionals and pastry chefs, and so I think it's a really special industry to be in.
Sometimes like a lot of people in this industry will know it can be thankless at times. Sometimes the only thanks that you truly get is seeing the expression on people's faces as they're enjoying your work, and for people who are true to the art or true to the game, like it's enough.
Yeah.
Like I've done my job here,
Yeah, I was a line cook for a while. I had a couple of gigs where I was line cooking. For a long time, people were like, "How do you have so much experience?" And they don't realize I had like 2 jobs for 10 years.
Yeah.
And for me, line cooking, every time I put a plate in the window, that was like instant gratification. You had to take great pride and joy in executing that plate so perfectly and put it up there. You never even know where it went. You didn't see the person or anything. And so, that's craftsmanship to me. And I feel like it's the same way with baking and pastry, that, when you're working in a large scale bakery or you're working in a small scale shop, making confections, whatever it is, you take great pride in the work that you do. You don't always see where it goes. You don't always have the opportunity to interact with the customer and hear the accolades.
Right.
That like you said, that's the cherry on top when you see the smile or people's eyes light up.
Yes. And it's kind of funny that you talk about just enjoying the work, the process, and what you said is very true. Like formula, not recipe, because a recipe is something you do, but a formula is something almost like you live. You know what I mean? Like you live by this. Like this is, and everything extends off of this. That's a very, very great way to approach it. That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I know I got tons of questions here, but we don't have to get into all this stuff. I think we talked enough today, and you've answered. I mean, just about every question that it could have asked you. You know what I mean? Like, I think people are going to be very pleased when they see.
That's it. Not one more. Not a secret question.
Well, no, of course, there's definitely one more. Well, we always do the shameless plug. So I know that you're not selling anything per se, like any items. But anything that you're proud about, anything that you're working on, anything that you consulting that you're doing, anything that the school is involved in, anything you want to talk about that's happening right now, let's talk about it, like promote it, tell me, especially like how, and we already talked about how you help people. That's obvious, but.
Yeah, you know what? The industry is in such demand for professionals, as we all know. It's so hard to find a skilled cook, a skilled pastry cook, baker, whomever. So right now, the college is really, we're working hard to recruit and develop that energy and that excitement around the industry, because like you said, the work is so hard that, not everybody maybe wants to work as hard as you and I did when we were kids. And coming out of college. So we're really developing as an industry. And I think culinary education as a whole is part of that. We're trying to reshape what's a work week, trying to reshape working conditions, trying to reshape what's a living wage and compensation and benefits. So I like being a big part of that. And I think at a culinary school, we get to interact and network and have lots of conversations with lots of companies and professionals. And we're all in this together, from producers such as yourself to educator to, manufacturers and mom and pop shops. I think we all need to really work on this problem together about how do we attract tremendous talent and energy into our field. We used to have, we had 10 graduates for every job offer not that long ago, and now there's 10 job offers for every graduate. So I'm really working hard on that problem. That's not a formula that I can just perfect in the kitchen. It's one that we're working on as an industry. So one of the things that I did is kind of an offshoot of that about 3.5 years ago is I did launch a consulting company. So I do work for myself as well, outside of Penn College, and that's been really fun. My teaching makes my consulting better. My consulting makes my teaching better. And it's been a good fit. And those types of problems are the things that I'm trying to help employers with. It's like, how do you do less? How do you do more with less? How do you crank out more production with less team members or with a less skilled team member, and so on. So it's been a lot of fun. I've been working on that. And then, I just try to keep it all in balance. Like I said, I've got 3 kids. I'm engaged to get married. I've got 2 bonus kids. So we got a big family. Yep. Thank you.
Yeah.
It can't all be work without some fun and play. So I enjoy skateboarding. I'm a very avid skateboarder. I'm a big Thai boxer. I'm in the gym 3 or 4 times a week, ideally kickboxing and Muay Thai boxing and so on. So I think it's good. I think all of us as chefs and working professionals, yourself included, we need a good balance.
That's right. Yes.
It's really, that makes it more sustainable.
Yes.
We can't expect an 80-hour work week to be the normal. That's what it was for me when I was coming up through here. I was working all the time, and it just can't be like that anymore. It's just not.
People are not like that. And I think you're hitting on something that I didn't expect to talk about today, but it's kind of, you're hitting on some personal stuff, in that the industry needed change. And it surprised me to hear you say at first, because I left about 10 or so years ago, that we're looking for bodies now, where it seemed like a very short time ago, so many people, what I call the Food Network effect, and drawn to the business. It's almost like social media has drawn them away. because like, oh, well, I'm not going to do this when I could just take pictures of myself and make money on social media. Like you talk to a 15-year-old, that seems like a much more appealing option.
Sure.
You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
you're in a very real way. The college is doing the Lord's work in the sense that you are showing the next generation how to feed people, how to feed themselves. This thing that we do 3 times a day, all of us, every single being on this planet, God forbid, is eating 3 times a day. But and it's overlooked in a way and taken for granted, but it's so important. It's so important.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I appreciate the compliment.
These skills are getting lost, these techniques are getting lost, and you're keeping them alive. And
we all are. You're in the business as an ingredient provider, and like I said, I'm in education, and we both work closely with producers and manufacturers, and we're going to preserve this craft we have for thousands of years. But right now, we just got to do it smarter. I think technology has been tremendously. We've been using a lot more technology recently than in the past. I see companies bringing in pieces of equipment where they used to always do it by hand, but now,
Right.
It's okay. It's not even settling. I think some companies feel like bad that they need to resort to more equipment or robotics or whatever it is, but you know what, I think it's just the evolution of our industry. And actually there's so many wonderful pieces of equipment out on the market. I think it's fine. I think at the end of the day, there's always a craftsperson who's there, who's filling the machine, programming the machine, evaluating the outputs, adjusting the machine. It's still craftsmanship. You know what I mean? Because believe me, I work with a lot of these pieces of equipment and they need human intervention. They need a person there to really fine tune and tinker with it. And then you end up going back and tinkering with the dough or tinkering with the ganache to make it work in the machine. And I think it's still all craftsmanship. We're just working within the times, and what's allowing us to do is to feed more people with less team members. And there's nothing wrong with that. And it's just one of many solutions that will allow us to continue to provide healthy, nutritious, and also delectable, super tasty, indulgent, confections and baking and pastry, for generations to come. So it's fun. I'm really in a cool little niche spot right now, I think. And
yes,
and I just hope to keep it going and, keep all those balls in the air,
Well, we thank you. The world thanks you. I'm sure your students thank you. I don't know if we mentioned this, but what it was, you were been named Dessert Professionals magazines as one of the top 10 pastry chefs in America. So I don't think I'd be doing you justice by doing this interview and not spotlighting that.
Thank you.
Thank you. You keep doing what you do, man. Keep putting out little Charleses, not literally,
I appreciate that. I appreciate that very much. Yeah, it was a nice, pleasant surprise. I told my students that you keep your head down, you work hard, you take care of yourself, you take care of your family, then you take care of your team members, and people are going to notice it. Believe me, people are going to notice it, because there's just not enough. We need a lot more of that. And so it was nice to get a nod from the industry, and
well deserved.
Thank you. I appreciate that so much.
I think you and I maybe have to have another conversation, because I need to figure out how I can help you in this mission. You know what I mean? And keeping these skill sets alive, keeping people interested in the culinary arts is very important. So
yeah, it is. It's absolutely one of my driving forces these days. It's bigger than the one student in front of me. It's the industry, and it's all of these challenges that we're facing right now, with no easy solution, no one solution. it's exciting. It's never been a more exciting time to be in the food business. And if you are creative, if you're a problem solver, if you can roll your sleeves up and work hard, you'll go as far as you want. You will be very successful. I when the students enroll, I give them about 500 formulas right out of the gate. Here you go. Best of my career, right? Everywhere I've been. Here's the best creme brulee. Here's the best cheesecake, that I like.
Mm-hmm.
And I say, there's no secret recipe. The secret is getting up every day and doing it, doing it well. And then the real secret is motivating a team to do it with you. If you can figure that out, you are going to be just fine. So,
truth, my man. On that note,
all right,
and you go enjoy your Friday, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Derek. It was a real pleasure. Let me know when I can come back.
A real pleasure. You definitely will be getting some notice from us. Thank you.
All right. Take care, everybody. Have a great day. Have a great weekend.
You too. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.